So yeah, I just put Patrick down. So I've got the next hour and a half free. Yeah,
He's a
so
good boy if he just goes down like that.
what's that?
He's a good boy if he just goes down like that.
Yeah, I mean, both kids actually are really good sleepers.
Kids are angels, Therese.
Nice.
Their kids are angels.
They're so cute, Matt. Every time I see those pictures, I just want to hug them.
Mhm.
They're the most huggable looking kids out there.
Yeah, they're good kids.
That's good.
So speaking of kids, last week we did my dad, and so we basically, what we're going to talk about is pretty much your life from both of your perspectives, just about to the point where you get married to Uncle Pete, and yeah, you can, yeah. Sorry, I was talking to Kathleen. So just about to that point. So kind of like break it up in like half-hour-ish chunks of maybe. I guess we'll just start and see how it goes. So I guess famously, you and my father are Irish twins. So grandma and grandpa came home from the hospital with dad, and immediately were like, let's sign me up for that again. I want to do that as soon as possible.
Oh, really?
I don't know. That's my assumption.
That's
So I
cute.
guess you guys want to go ahead and start talking about having Aunt Therese.
Well, when I was pregnant for Therese, of course, he was 10 months old and in a hospital with pneumonia. It was his first cold. But Therese and Dad managed while I worked and visited with Steve, and we took turns. And then Therese I was still working when Therese was born, but she was born at 8 months pregnancy, and she weighed more than Steve. She weighed 6 whole pounds, and we brought her home on day 6 or 7. I always believed a week was a good rest, and she was a good baby. But I unlike Steve, I went back to work when she was 6 weeks old, because in the meantime, Grandpa had graduated with his master's degree in social work from Michigan State, and he had gotten a job in the Ann Arbor area, found a place for us to live, and we were destitute, and so
Yeah, for at that time.
So I went to work, I think 7 straight nights from the date that she was 6 weeks old. And on the 8th day, I rested. No, we moved to the Ann Arbor area.
So did you know you were having a girl before she was born, or was that a surprise?
Oh, not at all. The only thing I knew was that she was different because I had pains going down the front of my leg. And I asked the obstetrician, and he said, that's where the occiput is. The occiput is the back of the head. And I had never felt that with Steve, because Steve's head was in the opposite direction. Steve was face forward, which was a very difficult delivery. Mm-hmm. Therese had a knot in her cord when she was delivered, and when she was delivered and they said, oh, she's got a knot in her cord, and she was already out, thank God. And they said, oh, this is nothing, but it's just a good sign she was a good swimmer.
Yeah, okay. keep going, because Aunt Therese is still too young to remember at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't remember any of that yet. So then we lived at Pleasant Ridge Drive, right?
Yeah, I remember taking a picture of you propped up against a pillow just before we left Spartan Village at MSU, and that's on slides, I presume, someplace. And that's one image in my mind. And then
I looked like a little Buddha.
Yeah, well, we moved to Ann Arbor, and you were quite a plump baby, while we lived on White Street in Ann Arbor. And that was we were in a student house.
Building that maybe 6 or 8 young men had lived in,
Yeah, there were beds all over the place.
and it was filthy.
And,
Oh,
The
and,
basement was filled with water.
Oh,
and I was always amazed at how Therese grew in a very short time that summer. And and I can still see her.
Then we moved to Helein
Uh,
in September.
well, before we did that, in that house, your grandma Teresa's mom would cook something on the stove, and it would get hot around the walls, and you could see the walls moving.
oh,
That was all the grease that was on the wall, just
Oh.
kind of coming down the wall.
nasty.
But we had the choice of about 9 beds, so
Yeah, I can't for sure remember, but I think Therese was in the baby bed and Steve was in the playpen, and that's how we slept them upstairs, and that was the only bathroom too, was upstairs.
we were able to buy a home, our first house, brand new, 13,900, and we eventually put a carport on it and finished the basement off somewhat. And that's where Therese spent the first, let's see, born in 60. So, well, and we moved away in 69.
9, yeah.
So 9 years, huh?
I was in 4th grade.
And she,
So yeah,
What grade?
so my dad had a lot of good memories.
I was in
about-
4th grade and Steve was in 5th grade. So
So why don't you tell us
Daddy
about your friends?
Steve
and
had a lot of
Therese?
memories of.
Well, all your friends and what you used to
What?
do. Am I breaking up?
yeah.
No,
So
you're
are you
fine.
talking about Helein?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can tell you what I remember about Helein. I think the earliest I can remember is kindergarten, and my kindergarten and 1st grade teachers back then. And I remember the playground, and I remember we wore dresses to school. And before you would go out to recess, you would put on some kind of stretch pants so that you could go across the monkey bars or play out there. Or it was winter, so we had to wear pants. But I don't know how long it was. But do you remember, Mom, we wore dresses to school most every day.
Yes,
It might
Yes,
have been
you
the
did.
rule. And it was safe. I think we were little kids, but we walked to school and walked home, and we walked to dance class after school. And
By yourself.
that was by ourselves. And I don't know, you had a lot
You
of
walked
kids, so
alone.
I'm not sure if you had time to worry about us, but yeah, we walked. So I remember
Well,
that about school, and
well,
it
we
seemed like a long walk, but it wasn't.
And not only that, but
I
even
can't hear you, Mom.
before you were kindergartners, you and Steve, can you hear me now, dear?
Yep. Mhm.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
We
Yes.
would walk to the doctor's, and we would walk
Yep.
to the library for the story hour.
And we had a sledding hill in our backyard, and it seemed like a really big sledding hill. And we could just go in our backyard and go sledding with the kids in the neighborhood, because our backyard butted up against the school. So the sledding hill was at the school, and we could go up to the Tripp's house, which was kind of maybe 6 houses down the block. And there was a hill that we had to walk to go to school, but it wasn't really a big hill. But I remember that we could ride our bikes downtown, or uptown we called it, and there was a little store that was on the left, and I remember you could get candy bars for a nickel, and that was pretty special. We didn't. Yep.
It was a mom and pop store, and as we checked out, they had all this candy to tempt the kids. And I had taken, I don't know, a $5 bill, maybe that was a lot of money for me, to the grocery store. And Therese had some change of her own that she took. And I paid for our groceries, and her money went toward the candy. And we're walking home, and she says, you know, Mom, the money that they gave you back? And I said, yes. And she said, that was my money.
So let's see, what else? I remember this is before 4th grade. We had good friends. We had lots of friends on the street. So I had Sally and Susie were my friends, but Steve had friends, Blake and Brian, and a lot of kids just really close by, and we would play outside a lot. And we would ride bikes, and down the block from us was a newer subdivision. And when they were putting in that new subdivision, I must have been in 3rd or 4th grade, getting ready to move or so, and it had gravel. So I don't know if you've heard the story about Therese riding her bike and always falling off and sliding in the gravel. So my knees and my elbows were full of gravel quite a bit from flying off my bike, because you couldn't really stop on that gravel. And so I took some big diggers. I remember that from back then.
Do you remember how you learned to ride your bike?
No, maybe. Remind me.
Well,
Did you push me?
we
and
were
say go?
giving Stephen lessons on how to ride the bike. And I forget how old he was.
5.
5? He
Probably
was
5.
5 years old. And you were standing at the door, looking out. You were standing at the storm door, looking out. You could hardly see over, but you were studying every move that we were trying to teach Steve. And pretty soon you were out there riding the bike all by yourself before we even had a chance to teach you. Because you were going to do whatever Steve did.
Do it better if you did.
I think that was it. I think poor Steve, he always had me just trailing right behind him, probably more competitive than he needed, because academically or with things like the unicycle or bikes or whatever, I was always doing whatever Steve could do, right? Trying to, anyways.
Pretty much. I remember that Steve was pushing you around in the stroller at our house. And the steps went from our dining room right down into the basement.
No, there was a little platform to go out the back side door.
And Steve, yes, and Steve gave you a tumbling ride all the way down the stairs in the stroller.
Wow.
But you were
Anna
not
and I
injured.
share something in common.
You were not injured.
And we put a nice
You don't
thick
think so
rug-
anyways.
We put a nice thick rug at the bottom of the stairway in case that should ever happen again, God forbid. And nobody ever fell down those stairs again.
Yep.
So
And let's see.
you moved, probably you might want to talk about moving to East Lansing and going to school
I will.
there.
I'll tell you 2 more things. I remember that Steve had some cute friends that lived across the street, and I got in trouble once because I used to try to get their attention, and sometimes once I swore at them, and I think the lady across the street called Mom and told Mom, your grandma, that I was yelling swear words at the boys.
That's not what you want
Anyways,
to find out.
Also, I remember,
Oh, they were cute boys, not cute girls.
what was her name? Brian's mom must have called and said, Teresa's swearing. But I didn't know what I was saying.
I think it was
The other
Jackie
thing that I
Johnson.
remember is that, yeah, Jackie, but I was pretty young. And I also remember that Celine had a bicentennial or a centennial? Bicentennial? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Mom will have to tell you. But
Well,
Grandma made all the boys matching vests, and I think they were made out of yellow gingham. And then she made,
yes.
I think Mom and I had yellow dresses. And we went downtown, and I remember the fire department. I mean, that was a lot of work to make all those clothes just for, I think it was a one-day event. And I think Grandpa wore a
Grandpa
hat, and
had
we
a
all
vest.
acted like we were,
And a vest.
Grandpa had a
A
vest,
gingham. Grandpa had a vest.
but all the
Yes,
kids
I
had
had a
vests
gingham
too.
vest as well.
And we had
Yeah,
gingham hats.
Are you saying gingham?
and gingham hats,
What does that mean?
gingham, like
Hmm?
checkered, little checkers.
Okay.
Not like a big check, but little checkers. I call that gingham.
Okay.
Gigham, gingham. And I remember they did things like the fire department took hoses and they tried to move a ball across the street with a big fire hose and the water coming out. And they had like a jail where people it must have been a fundraiser where people were in jail. And I think I was young enough where I wasn't really sure if that was a real jail or what that was. But I remember that was a big deal that summer, getting all ready for all the events.
We went to other communities like Clinton or what?
Milan.
No,
Not Milan.
not Milan, but other communities that were celebrating their centennial. Centennial.
I think they were celebrating our centennial.
So I remember more of that, going to the other communities than anything we did in Saline.
One community a week.
Really?
And Therese,
Well, that was
So
a
we
big
got a
deal.
lot of wear out of it.
before we get out of Saline, tell about the party you were at down at Mackenzie's. And had to do with a glass wall.
Oh,
Adorable.
did you hear about that one, Matt, yet?
Yes, I was gonna ask when, because that's
So, yeah, I guess this was
Yeah.
that was very memorable. So a group of 6 or 8, there was always birthday parties in the neighborhood, but there weren't a lot of kids, maybe 6 or whatever. Your best neighborhood friends would go to parties. And I went over to Sally Mackenzie's house, and we were outside. We went from inside the house to outside to sit on picnic tables or whatever. And I came into the house to use the restroom, but on the way out, I must have had a good running start because I went running back out. I didn't want to miss anything. And the sliding doors had been closed. And I ran right through the sliding glass door. And again, I was wearing a dress with tights. We always wore dresses with tights. And I wasn't hurt at all, but Mom said that when my tights came off and things came off, I was loaded with glass.
Yeah.
That must have been expensive to have to pay back the Mackenzies for a sliding glass door.
Yeah, and you
Do you want
left.
to add to that?
You left an outline of your body going through the glass door, just like you'd see in a comic strip.
That's so weird.
Wow.
No, but I'll tell you, we didn't know that it had happened. And all of a sudden, Mrs. Mackenzie came walking down the street with Therese in hand, and Therese looking like a bomb had gone off. She'd been crying so hard, and her face was so dirty, and she was all screwed up, and she just, oh, poor thing. I mean, it must have been horribly. She cried. They couldn't hardly get her to stop crying. It scared her so.
I would think so. Well,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
that one I didn't
You're
write
lucky to
down.
be
I should have
alive.
remembered that one. That one should have been a
before-
memory.
Before we get out of
Get
Saline,
that one written down for me, Matt, so I remember.
yeah. Have you looked up that house? Is that house
Okay.
still there?
We're out of Saline.
Grandma.
Yes, the house is still there.
Okay.
In fact, we know the people that live next door, but not the people that live in the Saline house.
Do you remember the address?
319.
319 Pleasant Ridge
Is that right?
Drive.
319 Pleasant Ridge Drive.
48916.
319.
48176?
48176. Okay,
I wouldn't trust it.
That's your zip code.
48176. You're right.
I found it. It's a single family home built in 1959. Your story checks out. I'm going to try and add some to the video. I'm going to try and add some Google Street views to it, but You bought it for $13,000 and it's worth 270.
13.9.
Yep.
How much?
260.
270?
Yeah, 262.
And I
That's
think,
incredible.
I think Grandpa's grandmother, my great grandmother Gom gave them a little bit of money so they could make a deposit. And we used to have on the numbers on the house where it said 319, it was the shape of a lion. Am I right?
Right. Yeah, she
Okay.
lent it.
We didn't have any money for a down payment.
No, not for that.
Yeah.
No, GOM gave us, she gave us $5,000 loan so we could get into the Cahill house. But we
Oh,
got
okay.
into Pleasant Ridge Drive for $300 down.
And Don gave us that
All
$200
right.
because we didn't have any money. We were quite surprised that we had to make a down payment.
You know,
Just because you were inexperienced?
that's how it
A
goes.
little disagreement there, but all right.
Oh, I was surprised.
So,
then we moved to
Yeah, so was that move hard for you, Aunt Therese,
East
leaving all your friends and everything?
I don't remember it being particularly hard. I remember it was kind of exciting to move. I
Mhm.
mean, I wasn't afraid to start a new school. It was kind of fun, even though we had good friends there. I don't think in 4th grade I worried about friends or leaving friends or making new friends. I don't remember that. What do you think, Mom and Dad? Were we as kids worried about that?
I think it was hardest on Mark. I don't think it was hard on Steve. Stephen was the one that had the biggest loss in terms of friends, I think, but I don't think it was particularly hard for either one of you two.
Okay. All right, now we're on Cahill.
Yep.
I remember that move. Grandpa got a job at Michigan State, working in the Manly Miles building. You want to start?
when we moved to East Lansing because I had received an offer of an academic appointment as assistant professor and the administrative appointment with it as the associate dean or the associate director of regional medical programs, which was heart, cancer, stroke programs. So we moved with not much fanfare. We just rented a U-Haul truck, and Ron McGinnis helped me all day long. And I'll tell you, Matt, when you move out of a house with all your furniture and kids and everything else, it's an all-day job, and you are just totally spent by the end of the day. But we settled in very
I don't
quickly, didn't
remember
we?
us. We did settle in quickly. I don't remember our family having so much stuff that people have these days. Like all of our
For sure.
toys and things like that. We didn't have as many toys or as many things to pack up as people these days have, including my own daughters that we've helped move.
Well, I think we left a chatty Cathy behind somewhere in the walls of the house in Saline.
Is that it?
Hey, it looks
Where do
nice.
you think? Where
That
do you
looks
think
it.
Chatty Cathy
There's
is?
our house right there. Yep.
Yeah. Looks like it has a ramp.
It does.
It used to be, Matthew, it used to be just a carport, not a full garage.
I think it still is a carport.
No, it's not a full garage now, is it? No.
It looks
It looks
open.
like it. Is it a carport?
Yeah, so
It should be open all around.
So we
yeah.
moved.
I could still picture that house pretty well. I can't tell how much is like home videos and how much of it is like my real memory. But I do remember that there's a bedroom in the basement, which was both scary and cool to me as a little kid. And then there was the rest of the house on the main floor. There wasn't an upstairs at the Cahill house, right?
Right. All
Okay.
one level.
So was all the kids except for my dad were sleeping on the main floor?
Right. Paul and
Right.
Mark shared a room. Therese always had her own room that I remember. And my mom and dad were across the hall. So all 3 bedrooms were next to each other with one bathroom.
And
No,
we
1.5.
also had one big bathroom. One big bathroom and one little powder room.
Yep.
So you
And
settled
the
in
nice
quick?
thing about that when we moved in is that street. Sorry, Matt.
No, go ahead. I think there's a delay.
Am I talking?
You are. Yep.
I was just going to on Cahill, all the houses almost on both sides across the street, behind us, up the street, were kids our age. So on Cahill, there were so many kids that we went to school with that, we had
And
really
behind you,
great friends.
behind you on Roseland.
Right.
And behind you
us.
on Roseland, or they were too young.
No, they
Yeah.
were friends of Mark and Paul's, and I babysat them, but I just remember that, yeah, the whole neighborhood, there was houses and houses everywhere of kids that were our age, it seemed like. That was a great neighborhood to grow up in. We had lots of friends.
So
Call that the faculty ghetto.
Oh yeah.
Most of the people were university related.
Yep.
So I want to know.
We had a
I want to know what.
German Shepherd.
Yeah.
We had a
Oh, you're German Shepherd. Go ahead, Grandpa.
We had a German Shepherd dog, beautiful creature, in 1970, as did our neighbors, the neighbor to the west of us.
And
We both had German Shepherds. And about the last couple weeks of August, the faculty members would go on their 2-week vacation, whatever it is, before school started up. So when we came back from vacation, we found out that most of the homes around us in the back and east of us, and even west, were either broken into or their locks jimmied, except for our house and our neighbor's house.
there were 3 houses with German Shepherds.
Well, the other was on a street perpendicular to Hill.
Yeah.
But they weren't part of my recollection, of who got broken into and who didn't. But I thought it was rather fascinating that somebody cased the neighborhood and knew where the dogs were.
Yeah. Or they walked up and dogs started
Yeah.
barking and they got out of there.
So, yeah, I guess our dog was in the garage. Poor Dick was taking care of it. And when we got back, he says, that dog has balls like a mule.
Owls, yeah.
He was from Tennessee. He had to keep cleaning up the dog. So, Therese.
That dog's name was
Shayna.
Shayna.
It was Shayna, Conda, and Austin. Therese, do you have more
Wow, good memory.
memories of Marble School or of McDonald School?
Therese?
Did you hear me, honey?
Yeah, I have
Therese?
memories of both. I have lots of memories of both, yes. When we went to Marble School, 4th and 5th graders could be like crossing guards. And I remember I got an opportunity to be a crossing guard once for a certain part of the year. That was really exciting. We also were in probably a new learning environment where they put kids together in 2 different grade levels, and we were in quads. It was an open education concept where each corner of a room that had an open center was a different homeroom. And I began in a homeroom that was, or a quad that was 3rd and 4th graders, and Steve was in a quad that was 4th and 5th graders. So that was kind of a new thing. And then when Steve went off to middle school, I then went up to the 4th and 5th grade quad. That's all I remember about that. I had friends, and I think some of my really good friends went on to middle school with me. Are you talking, Mom?
Do you remember anything about Impression 5 Museum getting started at Marble School?
No. That sounds like
Oh,
it was
okay.
after me.
No, it was, well, maybe.
No.
So
And I
then,
remember,
I guess
that-
McDonald's came next.
right, and I think the only sports that I remember in elementary school that we did was school related, like track. Like we ran relays. I don't remember being in t-ball or baseball or any kind of coordinated sports. Right?
Well, there was
And
an
then-
all-city sports program competition, and Steve signed up immediately and sent his in, and you signed in next a little later and sent yours in. But Steve was not the first young man to send his in, whereas you were the first young woman. So you got your picture in the paper, and the irony was Steve had signed up before you, but he did not get his picture in the paper.
Oh, boy, see, poor Steve. He had his little sister just trailing after him. I remember we both got Presidential Physical Fitness Awards. You know, those
Yes.
patches? And it had to do with how fast you could run and jump and do stuff like that. So that was something we got, yeah, pull-ups and stuff. That was something we got that was kind of exciting back then.
And jump rope, no? Didn't you jump rope in the gym or
Maybe.
something? No, that
I
was
don't remember.
McDonald's.
And then we went across the street to the middle school. And the middle school, we had kids from probably 3 different elementary schools. I know White Hills was there and Glen Cairn was there. So
Donnelly?
I ended up having some of my, what?
Donnelly?
Donnelly? Yeah. Some of my best friends I met in middle school. So, and they stayed friends for quite a while. That was a nice group of people in middle school.
And you were brownies together.
In middle school?
Yeah. Or
Okay.
were you Girl Scouts? You were brownies.
I think I did, yeah. I don't remember much about being a brownie or a Girl Scout.
Oh, good. Good. Because I had to be the leader for a little while, and it was a real stress.
Yeah. I didn't encourage my own daughters to do too much brownies or Girl Scouts, but they did it for a while, and that was good enough. So, and I remember we walked to school, right?
Into
I don't think
McDonald
that-
and to Marble.
and it didn't
And
seem
you
like
had to
it was a
come home
long
for
walk,
lunch.
but we came home for lunch too, right? Can you
Mhm,
imagine? We
had
walked
to.
probably 8 blocks, was it?
Mhm.
8 or 9 blocks, and then you'd walk home for lunch and walk back. That's a lot of walking, but that was good. Middle school. That middle school for us was grades 7 and 8. No, 6, 7, and 8. 6, 7, and 8 was middle school. And what do I remember about middle school? I remember, Matt, I didn't wear makeup. I didn't wear a bra until high school. I wasn't allowed to have pierced ears until I went to college. And then I didn't need approval. I just waited till I went to college. So we were pretty basic people. I don't think I was a real girly girl, even though I hung out with a lot of girls.
And you weren't allowed to have a Barbie doll. You had a skipper.
I had a skipper. I didn't
You know
date.
who
I wasn't allowed to
Skipper was?
date until I was 16.
Did you
What?
secretly
So,
date before you were 16?
What?
Did you secretly date before you were 16?
No, somebody, because my brother was older, I knew his friends. And I don't know how I ended up dating a guy who was a junior in high school when I was a freshman.
Mhm.
And I told him I wasn't allowed to go on dates. So we dated in the hallways and held hands for about a week, maybe 2 weeks. And he said, I don't think this is going to work out. I don't think we can date if you can't date. I said, okay. And I don't remember, Dad or Mom, I don't remember us ever having boyfriends or girlfriends come over to our house and just hang out. Do we ever have like guys just come over and sit and watch TV all night long? Or
No,
No, we didn't do
like
that.
Steve's friend might come over, or your friend might come over to be
Yeah.
with you, but not mixed messages there.
you
Yeah, we
were
didn't.
always too busy to watch TV anyway.
McDonald had something that Marble didn't have. McDonald had a couple of things, in fact. McDonald had a pool,
Yep.
and McDonald had a band.
Oh yeah, I really liked band in middle school. I had Mr. Tut, and he encouraged us to practice, and I was always fighting for first chair, usually with Tammy Hurd. Tammy Hurd was probably the only African American I know that went to my high school, but she had a beautiful tone on her flute, and she could play so beautifully. So we were practicing scales constantly so that I could be first or second. And then Lori Updegraff was always third. And Lori always challenged me because she wanted to be first or second too. So that kind of was a healthy competition. Maybe that's why I got to be a pretty good flute player in middle school.
We're good.
And I met my good friend Janet Chafee. She was in like my 7th grade science class. And Mrs. Tut, who was not married to Mr. Tut, this is more information than you don't need to know, but she always called Janet Chafee Daffy Chaffee because her last name was Chafee. And she was kind of ditzy or kind of daffy. So she called her Daffy Chaffee all the time.
That was mean.
And,
Mean.
what? I know.
That was mean.
Yeah. And Janet was in my sex ed class too when Mrs. Tut was talking about sex ed, and Janet was laughing and laughing, and she got in trouble and was told that if she didn't grow up and get more mature that she couldn't be part of the sex ed talk. But Janet and Lynn Verway and a whole bunch of people who were friends in high school were friends in middle school. But again, we didn't like, nowadays I think kids like spend an enormous amount of time together and texting and FaceTiming, and we were friends and we knew who our best friends were, but it wasn't like we spent that much time together. And I don't know if I was different than other kids, but it's kind of what it seemed like. I was best friends, and once in a while we'd go to a movie, or I don't know. We didn't even talk on the phone, Matt, because if you talked on the phone, everybody in your house listened because it was right in the kitchen.
Mhm.
And we didn't have texting. So that, yeah, it was just different,
Would you
right?
spend the night at each other's houses?
Not in middle school.
Okay.
I don't remember.
But on the
Maybe.
other hand, I think your evenings were busy enough, even though you weren't spending them with your school friends. Am I wrong?
I was always busy. I never was bored a day in my life growing up. I had all kinds of independent things that I liked to do, whether it was listening to music or knitting or sewing or playing my flute or practicing writing or watching some TV or riding a unicycle. I was pretty, I don't know if compared to other people, but I worked like At age 14, I got my first job working at Dawn Donuts for $1.35 an hour. So I worked. I babysat a lot. I had lots of families in the neighborhood that I babysat. So Friday, Saturday nights, anytime I could get a job babysitting. My brothers and I, we would shovel snow for probably 75 cents a driveway. I would weed gardens for people. So I don't know that I would say I was entrepreneurial, but just always had stuff to do.
Mhm.
Right?
Do you
Always had
remember
things.
when we had that really, really bad snowstorm and Flint got it even worse and they took Mary, Denny's wife, to the hospital and made her stay there, and Denny was stuck living with us for a while, and we shoveled our driveway, and it was, by the time we got done, the sides of the driveway were taller than you kids were.
Yeah.
And thank God we had Denny to help us too.
But with 4 kids, we had a lot of able bodies to get that driveway shoveled, right?
Yeah. It was
Hopefully
a big,
everybody pitched in. It seemed like I remember.
mhm.
Yeah. I remember that our chores were a little bit sexist back then. I got to vacuum. I'm not sure what else I did, but I got to vacuum, and I never once cut the grass. I don't know who did that, Dad? Or did the
Paul
boys
did the
do that?
dishes. Paul
What?
did the dishes.
Paul did the dishes? Okay. Oh, that wasn't sexist then, was it?
Well, for you it was.
I just remember never having mowed the lawn.
But neither did Paul.
Okay.
Paul never did.
Paul. Yeah, and we had a bird. I don't know if you heard about our bird. We had a bird named Sweetie, and we had a bird named Pickle. Did you hear anything about our birds yet, Matt?
I don't think so, no.
Well, they were kind of messy, and we had one at a time, and they were in my bedroom usually because they would they were kind of messy. They'd eat all their food and it'd go all over. But we taught our bird how to say things, and I know I still can whistle the song that we taught our bird. And my mom taught our bird, "Hi, I'm Glenn Campbell." And do you remember that, Mom? You taught him, "Hi, I'm Glenn Campbell." And the bird used to walk around the house on my mom's head, and sometimes it would poop, and you'd have to get the poop out of your
Yeah.
hair. But the bird had free reign of the house and usually rode around on Mom's head. And one day, my mom went outside to shake the rugs or something, and the bird was on her head, and he flew away.
What?
So we thought the bird was gone. But about a week later, maybe it was more than that, it was in the paper. A woman found the bird was eating at her bird feeder, and it was probably a mile away from us at the most. It was down the block and around the corner. So we made like a bug catching net, but it was a bird net, and we would go over and sit on her in her backyard and wait for the bird to come because we thought we were going to catch my bird. Was that Sweetie or Pickle? Do you remember?
Pickle.
Pickle. So we were going to catch it. I don't know how many days and hours we waited for that bird. And finally the lady decided that maybe Dad could make a trap that they would pop up and put something underneath it. And then when the bird came to eat, she would pull the string and the cage would go down and trap the bird. So that was a great idea. We didn't have to sit out in her backyard. And one day she called and she said, I pulled the trap and it hit Pickle on the head and the bird didn't live. So
Poor
after
Pickle.
all of that, the poor bird died by the trap, hit it on the head. But even to this day, my friend Sue, who used to live behind us, Sue Jennings said to me, I remember your mom had that bird that walked around. It was on her head all the time, and the bird flew out of the house. I said, yeah. I didn't remind her of the end of the story, but the end of the story wasn't good. But who does that? Puts an ad in the paper and says, I have this parakeet coming to my house. That was an interesting story.
Yeah, that's funny that you guys saw it and you tried to stake out and
Tried to get the bird, yeah.
almost had a happy ending. Almost.
Yeah.
Very
I
close.
climbed a pine tree to catch that bird, and the higher I got, the higher the bird went.
Yeah.
And a pine tree is not fun to climb.
No, I wouldn't do that. I would have said swim. We also had gerbils. And Paul, and I don't know if they were Paul and Mark's, but we had gerbils, and they'd let them run across the floor, and they'd get on this little rolly kind of a ottoman and roll around chasing after the gerbils, and Paul or somebody rolled over it and broke its back. So we have some not such good stories with our animals.
I think that's what happens to everybody's animals when they're kids.
Okay. That's how we learn.
Tell me about high school, like what you did, who your friends were, learning
All right,
to drive.
So we went to high school. That was farther away, and we didn't have a bus. So we had to get up really early to catch the CATA bus every morning. And we got ourselves up. I think we had breakfast. We got out of the house, caught the CATA bus. Sometimes we rode our bikes. Sometimes I didn't make the bus, so I had to skip my first hour class and wait for the next bus. But we didn't have chauffeur service that a lot of kids, some kids in the neighborhood had chauffeur service, and we didn't even ask them for rides. We just would go down and take that CATA bus. By the time Paul was, I think it was Paul, they finally got a bus service to pick up the kids. But so
Yeah,
we got
and there's
to high
a story
school.
about that.
Okay.
There's a story about how they got it, but I'll tell it when we talk about Paul.
Okay.
So I remember the first thing I did in high school before high school started is I went to band camp, because I made the best band at the school as a freshman. And so I was a flute player with lots of other flute players, and we went to band camp, and I got to know like a lot of kids, but none of them ended up being like my best friends. They were just people that I knew. And I think John Reniger and Rob Ward played in the band, but other than that, the girls, there were a few that were friends, but not my best friends. And we had to march in the parades, and our uniforms were black, navy blue wool. I hated those uniforms with these big, huge Trojan hats. I hated that. I hated marching band. And we had to go to the football games, and we had to stand until our team scored. And I had to sit with people that weren't really my best friends.
Mhm.
So if the band people aren't really your best friends and you have to stand, it kind of took the fun out of a football game. So then when it came to after marching season, my band director said, who wants to play the oboe? We need some oboe players. So 3 of us agreed to play the oboe. So we learned to play the oboe, but I didn't practice it that much. I remember I had a reed, and I got like blisters on my lips. I don't know. There must have been fungus or something on that reed or something. But I did the oboe for a year. What?
I'm glad that was all you got.
Oh no, that reed was something. But anyways, so I did the oboe for that season, and then the next year I did not go back to band. And that was the end of my flute playing. So that was age 14, 15, I was done playing the flute.
But even at that, you were a better flute player than I ever was.
Yeah, I was actually, interesting enough, I was not, of all of the flute players, I wasn't at the bottom. As a freshman, I was up there, you know, not, maybe 6 or 7 up there or whatever. But I always felt like those people who kept playing all the time, like, I don't know, Debbie something or other. She played forever, and she didn't care if she was last chair. I would just, I don't know. I didn't play forever, and I didn't want to be last chair. But so that was band. And I remember some of my favorite subjects. I would say I liked history. I liked global studies. I liked psychology. I liked econ.
Math? Did you
I
like
was
the
good
new
at math.
math? New
I was
math?
good at, we didn't call it new math. I just remember that math came easy for me. I didn't always get good grades because, I don't know, maybe I didn't do all my homework or whatever, but I remember I would do math late at night because I tried to get all my homework done. And geometry was a breeze. Some people really struggled in geometry, and to me it just made sense. You know, geometry was so easy. And so I had several friends who were terrible at math. Carla Heathcote was a good friend. She couldn't do math. Janet Chafee, she couldn't do math. And I could just show up and get an A in math anyways. So that was probably the easiest one for me. I wasn't really a fan of science. I switched it around. I did physics before I did chemistry, so I got to be in like my brother's physics class.
That must have been a hoot.
Yeah, he wasn't so great at physics either. uh, I think he got caught cheating. And but Mary Hennigan and John Tilden, and they were all in my physics class, so that was kind of fun. I liked high school. Steve had a lot of friends, and they were my friends too. So a lot of his friends I hung out with, and I hung out with people a year older than me, like my good friend Libby, my good friend Mary, Tracy. They all were a year ahead of me. So when they left high school to graduate, I felt a little bit deserted. But I still had friends my age, like Carla and Janet and Jenny. Jenny Vogt was a really good friend. She went on a vacation with us, I think, to Kentucky or someplace down south. I think it was Kentucky. So they were good friends, and they missed me because I left high school halfway through my senior year and went to college. Did you know that, Matt?
I didn't. You graduated early?
Nope. I had to go back. I had to pass all my classes in college and then come back and graduate. So that's what I did. And I was a springboard diver, and I always, for the most part, I almost always took second place. And Janet always took first. Therese usually took second, and Tracy usually took third. And Janet had
And
lots of. Okay.
And her father almost died every time she took a dive.
Or hit the board with her head once.
No,
Where
I
did you-
did. Okay, well,
What did you hit with, your bum?
well, I remember in college, this is kind of beyond.
Well,
So when
this-
I went to college my senior year, I was on the diving team at Northern Michigan. And if you have a lot of adrenaline and you get going, you know, you can really use your leg muscles. I went up to do an inward 1.5, and I felt like I was over the board. So that's where you stand on the board backwards and you do a somersault, and then you go into the water.
Yep.
Well, I opened up, and thankfully I did. I was high enough where I kind of, the back part, this part of my toes hit the board. Like I was, if I would have kept going, I would have smashed my head, but it caught my feet and I went flying. Oh no, that was at the state meet. Was that
was
at my
the
state meet?
State,
Because-
the high school meet.
High school states. I must have
Yes.
done that at states because I
Sure.
got 13th place at regionals or something. Yeah.
Therese, in order to go to state, she had to be such and such high in regionals or take at least one first in one of the meets. And Janet took all the firsts. So one day, Janet was sick. So Therese got her first and got to go to states. And she was
And that-
much better than a lot of the others who were going to state. And then we went and watched her, and that was when she hit the board.
Capital Area Conference, I took first. And I remember Janet's mom, they were there, and Janet's mom said something nasty, like you picked a odd time to win or something, but whatever. Janet was always nice. She wasn't competitive. Her dad and mom were there always taking notes, and they had all the scores figured out.
Oh,
Yeah, they had everything.
she said that because you usually came in number 2, and at the big meet you got first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah.
Okay, so so before so you met Uncle Pete in college, right?
Yep.
Okay, so before we get to that, I kind of want to know what it was like being the only girl with three brothers, what that dynamic was like.
Well, I don't know. I think we were really nice to each other. Maybe we fought, maybe there was competition here and there, but we all did the same things. Like we all were swimmers. We all rode our bikes. We all rode the unicycle. So it didn't feel like it was like I'm a girl and they're boys.
Other than the chores.
Other than the chores, but I just thought about that later in life. Interesting enough, Steve, like I said, he had friends that were in my grade. he had lots of friends in my grade, and I had lots of friends in his grade. And we all were kind of like friends of each other's. And when we went to dances and we got together at people's houses, it was a group of people that we both always knew. So, yeah.
So they were Irish twins.
They sure
Yeah.
were. Yeah.
I guess the other good thing is that I didn't have any hand-me-downs. I
Yeah.
don't remember ever getting any hand-me-downs to wear.
Yep.
But interesting, and probably Paul and Mark got plenty of hand-me-downs to wear. But Matt, we used to have a Sears catalog, and I think that we got to look through it and pick out an outfit for back to school or something. Because I remember looking at that Sears catalog, and we'd circle things we wanted for Christmas, and we'd pick out things that we might want for school. But I don't ever remember going shopping and buying school clothes. So Sears was kind of where we got our clothes, right, Mom? Got a lot of clothes from that Sears catalog.
It's like my brother said, and it was kind of true about you guys too, to some extent. He said he had to go to kindergarten before he found out that kids got more than just underpants and socks for Christmas.
Yeah.
So, so you mentioned you went to Northern Michigan?
Yep. And it was as far away as I could go and still pay in-state tuition.
Okay.
That was a plus. Felt like I was going away.
Yeah.
Because at my high school, almost everybody either went to U of M. Well, it felt like they either went to U of M or Michigan State. And my good friend Tracy went to Northern Michigan, and I thought that sounded good. And they said that they would let me dive up there. So I said, that sounded good. So I remember Dad gave me a ride. I don't know if Tracy was in the car, but when I moved in, we drove, and when we got to the bridge, I remember thinking, are we almost there yet? And Dad was like, we're only halfway there. You still got a long way to go. I didn't have any clue really where I was going to school.
Well, the first time you went up there, I took you with me on the state plane. And we got there in about an hour, hour and a half. And so you at the time, you thought that Northern Michigan University wasn't that far away from the house. But then you realized how far it was when we drove it.
Oh, it was a long way.
Distance. Yeah.
So we didn't come home very often. We didn't usually, sometimes we'd come home for winter break, but like Easter and Thanksgiving, we didn't always come home because you'd have to find somebody to drive you, and it was 8 hours each way.
Mm-hmm.
So it just didn't always make sense to drive home, have a day home, and drive right back. That was a long drive. So yeah.
So tell me about how
Where did you work? Where did you work? And when you were going to school, you were working.
Worked at the arena.
Yeah. So when I first went to college as a 17-year-old, I don't think I had a job right away. I think I helped clean houses and babysat because there were the Richards lived up there, Dr. Richards and some of their friends. And then I got a job at the rec center. It was a big PEIF building or whatever. And I checked IDs. So like when people would come in, I would check their IDs. And then they needed people to work behind the counter to hand out sporting equipment. And they needed people to work in the weight room. And they even needed ice guards. So I got to skate around and be an ice guard. So I worked at the PE building for a couple years. So I think it was my second year of college. I left in January. I did one semester, and then I left in January and I traveled Europe. No, I went to Michigan State for a term, and then I traveled around Europe. But before I had left, I had been introduced to Pete. I don't think he remembered it, but I did. I thought, oh my, I'd like to meet that guy again. So when after I did Europe, Tracy and I traveled Europe, and then we came back for what would have been her 3rd year. And it was my sort of my 2nd year, basically. And I was there about 2 weeks early so that the football players were all there practicing, and Pete was a football player. And I was sitting outside checking IDs when the football players would go in and out. And one day Pete came by, and I don't know if it was one of his friends said hi, but I said hi, and I said, "Hi, Pete." I acted like I knew him. And he went to his friends and he said, "Who was that?" He was like, "She knows my name." So then he came back after showering. He went back to the room or whatever, and he came back and started talking to me like he remembered me. But he later told me he didn't, but he was glad that I used his name and acted like we were friends, like I knew him.
So what was it like the first time you brought him home to meet Grandma and Grandpa?
Yeah, so that's kind of a big deal because, like I say, we only went home once or twice, right? We didn't go home like lots of times. So
What did you do in the summers?
wait, did he come home like during Christmas? No, I remember, I don't know when he came the first time. It was hot. It must have been a summer.
All I remember is that I wrote to you later on and said, well, he's not bad for a football player.
Did you say that? Don't put that in your book.
Don't put that in your book.
Don't put that in your memories. So yeah, what?
I recall meeting Pete. I don't know when the first time was, but I know that I met him when he was playing football. A state
At Detroit Lions.
Oh
place.
yeah.
field.
Yeah, I bet that's the first time we met him.
Silverdome. So
Silverdome.
it was his junior year when we dated the whole year, or his senior year, my junior year, we dated, and they were in playoffs, and they played at the Silverdome. So Mom and Dad and we all went and watched the game at the Silverdome. Yeah, that was kind of fun. They had a really good team.
So he went to someplace in Kentucky for his master's degree, and you, as soon as you graduated, left him to work on your master's degree.
Right.
Correct?
So my senior year in college, Pete was down at Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, getting a master's degree, and he had a graduate assistantship, and I stayed up at Northern to finish my degree, and I was a RA in a residence hall of upper class students, so it was really fun. So I was an RA, and then I applied to graduate programs and got some offers, and then I decided I also applied for a graduate assistantship in the residence halls. So I went to Western Illinois for my graduate work. So we had several, and then he got a job up in Appleton, and I was still down at Western Illinois. So there were I find it interesting because, again, we probably didn't see each other except for when we had breaks. He told me that his residence hall that he lived in Kentucky, you weren't allowed to have the opposite sex even in that residence hall. So as a grad student, he lived in the residence hall. So I never went to visit him in Kentucky. And I don't remember if he came to Western either, if we just saw each other on holiday breaks or summer. Yeah.
And then eventually you got married, and is that how you ended up in Appleton? Was he got a job there? And
right.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you lived, because you were an RA, you lived in the residence hall.
Right.
In Appleton? No, not in Appleton.
No, for my graduate assistantship, I was an assistant hall director in a 20-story building. So there were 4 of us, and we each had apartments on the 2nd floor. It was really kind of fun.
And so Pete lived with you.
What?
And so Pete lived with.
No, that was graduate school.
Oh.
And then after we were married, I got a hall director position at UW Oshkosh. And then Pete lived in the residence hall with me there for 2 years. So we didn't have to pay for meals. We didn't have to pay for room and board or any of that stuff. We had our apartment. So that's how we saved money, so that after 2 years, we bought our first house.
That's like a little bit like Steve's story, how Elisa was in charge of that apartment complex, and she had a free place, and so Steve stayed there with her.
Oh, I thought they were married. No?
They were.
They were.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They had me, and they fired her because like they were like, well, you're just gonna be too into your kids, so we're gonna fire you. Like,
Oh my.
that would not be allowed today, but back
Well,
then,
they did a lot of
okay.
things to me that would never be allowed
Yeah.
today.
Right.
So so yeah, I guess we made it. So Therese, do you have any other kind of random memories that you'd like to share about grandma and grandpa?
Well, I think that even though mom and dad say they didn't have very much money, they introduced us as kids to lots of cultural things, like inspired us to enjoy music. We did things like we went downtown Lansing and saw Shakespeare at the park or whatever like that. We went camping. We did a lot of trips to Florida. We slept like sardines in the back of that car of the custom cruiser to get to Florida.
You went snorkeling.
Climbed up Mount LeCount, and there was bears that we had to deal with in our cabin. So we did a lot of things like that as a family. That, and we went swimming a lot. We rode our bikes all the way to the university club. I don't know if anybody talked about that, but we did that a lot. Every day if we could, we'd ride our bikes to the university club, and we just hung out as friends. And I was thinking about this, and often thinking about this. We would ride our bikes there, spend all day there, and ride our bikes back. But we weren't the kind of kids that had like an open tab at the snack center, the snack bar. Other kids would go in for breakfast and lunch and eat hamburgers and French fries all day long. So I don't know how we ate. How did we eat when we were there all day? Did we sometimes eat at the snack bar? Or did we just pack something, or what did we do? We didn't eat.
Tell me. Maybe you ate well before you left, and when you got home, you had a big appetite.
Yeah, because we didn't do all that like that. The other thing I remember is that at our house, Mom was always very conscious to make sure we had healthy food. So we didn't necessarily like all the healthy food, like liver,
Cow tongue.
simple meals that we helped with or whatever, but we didn't have pop in the refrigerator. We didn't have candy bars. I don't remember chips. My mom used to can pears, and they were mint pears. I don't know how we ate those, but I remember those mint pears. And I remember when we got home from school, something in my memory tells me that we could have 3 cookies, and we could have pecan sandies, windmill cookies, or fig Newtons, or Nutter Butter peanut butter sandwich cookies, but only 3, because 1 or 2 of my brothers could have eaten the whole pack, but we had limits. So I remember that. And I remember we each kind of helped make dinner sometimes, simple dinners like in one of those skillets. We would make anything, a lot of skillet kind of dinners. We kind of helped out with that. So we weren't good cooks, but we helped.
I remember one time, Steven, it was his turn to make dinner, and I don't remember what he made, but you had your friend over and she ate with us, and she said, he's not bad for a guy.
That's Christopher Seth.
Yeah.
Still around. Christopher Seth said that. Yeah, not bad. And I remember, and I compare this to kind of what it's like now. And when I think about my kids and stuff, getting the 4 of our kids to sit down for dinner for more than 15 minutes, or to have a shared dinner time of 15 or 20 minutes, was always hard. But when we were growing up, 6 of us ate dinner together. That was a big deal. We always ate dinner together. We waited to be excused. When we were done, we didn't just get up and leave. We had to eat everything on our plates. So one of the things that we used to do is we'd put like what we didn't want to eat underneath the table, that big black table or the big dark wood table has like ledges underneath it. So if you didn't want to eat your liver or something, you could put it underneath on the ledge. Just sneak it underneath there. And usually it'd be okay unless it dried up and fell off on the ground. And then, I don't know, probably was in high school, Dad had us learn Apostles' Creed, or be able to say it. So before we left dinner, we said the Apostles' Creed, I remember. So we prayed together. We always prayed, and we ate together. And that was a big part of growing up that I don't think families are fortunate enough to have anymore, because people are busy or maybe they don't have the same values. Do you remember that?
We remember very well.
And
Very well. We're glad you remember that your memories that you choose to share are such kind memories.
Yeah, and after dinner, I think that's when the news would come on or the TV would come on, and Mom and Dad would drink a cup of coffee. And they always drank, I think it was Sanka, like the kind that you make.
Nescafe.
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 And sometimes they'd ask you to help, and you'd try to make it terrible because you didn't want to be the one that got asked to make it all the time. But you always made that freeze-dried coffee for a cup after dinner, right? Yep. That's what I remember.
Yeah, that ledge underneath
Okay.
the table is a popular hiding spot, so I think it's going to come up in the next two. The next two as well.
It'll keep coming up.
Keep coming up.
Yeah.
You would have thought I
Well,
would have figured that out.
Yeah.
You would have thought I would
Someone
have
might
figured
tell
that
you
out.
the story of once we were camping, and Mom used to make Spam sandwiches, and when she wasn't looking, we'd take the Spam and throw it, and we'd still eat our sandwich, but the Spam was gone. Yeah.
Oh,
But
I got to
that's what
tell you, Matt, that Therese is my favorite daughter. I've always really enjoyed just talking with her, seeing what she's doing, because she's lives a full life, I think, and enjoys what she does. She's talented in many different ways. She has a lot of her mother's qualities, for sure.
And when she was born, she had relatively long black hair, and her skin was semi-dark. And within the first couple weeks, Dad said about her, he says, "You know those Indians that live down below? She looks like she belongs to them."
Okay, that's good to know. So Matt, I didn't share the story about about the dirty knees, but I told you before about the dirty knees that my mom kept telling me to go wash my knees for a picture, but
Yep.
that was just the gravel in my knees.
Yeah.
And my scars and my scabs left me with gravel knees. Still have gravel knees.
As do I.
Okay.
My
Thanks,
mom has
Matt.
them too. Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
Grandma, Grandpa, anything else? But yeah, this is fun.
Well, we'll keep her.
Mhm.
We'd like to see more of her. We don't know why she moved to Wisconsin, but that's the way it is. So we have to go see her.
Yep.
Well,
Well, we hope that happens sometime sooner rather than later, but we don't know, right?
God only knows anything now.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
We miss
guys.
her. We miss her when we have everybody together around here.
And her daughters.
But she makes a great effort to get here when she can, and that's much appreciated.
And we'll see her in August. And you too, Matt?
Yep.
You're coming in August?
What?
September. A wedding? Maybe not. Maybe not, huh?
We'll see.
You never know.
Yeah.
So again, Matt, we appreciate you doing this. This will warm the hearts of a lot of descendants, I think.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you,
Love you.
Therese.
See ya.
Talk to you later.
Bye. I'm signing off.
Okay, bye. Love you, Matt.
Bye-bye.
Okay.